Namaste. Namaste.
Gasho. Do you think that social activists and meditators can be one and the same person?
Yeah.
So say more about that.
Well, it depends on what you call social activism. I mean, if Maharaji exudes from himself love, and I pick up that love, and then I pass it on to somebody else, and that's social action.
Yeah.
That's social action. And the world needs a lot of love.
I agree.
Allen Ginsberg had he called me up and said, would I help him? There was the groups were sitting on the railroad tracks to stop things from going in.
This is nuclear.
Yeah.
That worked. A lot of Quakers did that.
Hmm?
Quakers.
Yeah. So it was a peace rally. A peace rally. And we got in a circle in the middle of this rally, which people on the stage and people around us, but we were sitting there meditating.
Mm.
And I meditated, I could feel that, I mean, they were shouting, peace, peace. And I knew that the peace was in their own hearts. And if they could just manifest the peace, it would be much better for the society. Social inequity to be expunged. And the social inequity is somebody is right behind them, behind that. And that is a us and them kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that if you do actions to expunge the social inadequacy, somebody's going to get mad. we're going to start the we and them. We and them. And if each person has in themselves a compassion that includes them. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a compassion that sees the inequity in them, or that sees it's our inequity and our wanting to expunge it. But I remember back in the 60s, there were the anti-Vietnam War, and there was...
Civil rights movement.
Hmm?
Civil rights movement?
Yeah, civil rights movement. And there was the whole movement to take psychedelics.
No.
To bring about love and fun and compassion. Everybody that took psychedelics. But these were separate. Then the psychedelics went into the anti-Vietnam and all the other movements around. Well, pretty soon there was no interaction between us. There was a not negative interaction. I remember Jerry Rubin, and we had a talk, and he said, "You guys just sitting around taking drugs." And those people that were sitting around taking psychedelics now are upright members of this community.
What happened?
And they were and had and they were the being of glue of the society. I mean, they were but the inequities went on, so we didn't respond to the inequities.
So Artie, going back to the question that I began with was, can a person be socially engaged or a social activist and be a practitioner or a meditator?
Sure, they can.
And of course they can. I think there are great examples of such individuals that, people whom we both know, like Bernie Glassman and Thich Nhat Hanh, Joanna Macy. There's so many remarkable people, or people who passed on, like Mandela or Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King. We're very close to Martin Luther King Day right now. And so I think a lot of times people think it's kind of either or. But I see it, really from a point of view that you're talking about, where the individual has cultivated love and tenderness toward the world and doesn't polarize, and where the mind and heart are really trained and open, and where they can move into contexts of conflict and not create more conflict. There's a fantastic film that I don't know if you've seen yet. It's Lekka Singh's film called Beyond Right and Wrong, about forgiveness. Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, it's just remarkable. It's really powerful. It just showed at Sundance, and I want to encourage you and everybody to see it. It's in a way it's about forgiveness, but in a way it's deeper than forgiveness. It's manifesting unconditional love, courage, and the insight to see both the differences and beyond the differences. It's a really powerful film.
That's what I'd like to. I'd like more people to be in that watching, loving way.
Yeah. Why?
And they see the context of this stuff that they are doing.
Yeah. No, I think we're very much in agreement there, and I think that brings my thought to another question, and that is, do you feel that some kind of meditation practice or spiritual practices like kirtan or contemplative prayer can help or be a benefit to those who are engaged in dealing with structural violence? Maybe I should say what was meant by structural violence. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
So structural violence is when institutions discriminate against individuals or groups of individuals or the environment. So it would be something akin to systemic discrimination. And I think that, many of us are involved in issues related to structural violence in terms of economic disparity or gender issues, ageism, questions where not just one individual, but whole groups of individuals are harmed or the environment is harmed because of how a system is structured. So, democracy is a good example. Are we really living in a democracy?
Yeah.
Or is socialism, a better alternative? How do we create communities of collaboration instead of these top-down kind of communities and so on? Anyway, back to the question is, what kind of practices do you feel are helpful for social activists?
Practices that give them the whole picture,
Mm-hmm.
Karma yoga would be
Mm.
karma yoga.
So will you say more about karma yoga?
Well, it's whatever problem or that you're aware of that is in front of you.
I guess I must have done that today with Dasima. When Dasima and I went down to see the big waves, and I was very assertive in stopping vehicles so that Dasima could have a ride. Is that karma yoga? I mean, it's just painful to see your friend limping down the trail in order to watch surfers. It's just agonizing.
Yes, that is.
That's karma yoga, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Hawaiians are really nice, so, it wasn't a very hard job. And it was the hardest thing, can I tell you the hardest thing about it? Getting Dasima to let me do it.
Huh.
Your assistant is very stubborn. But anyway, back to karma yoga. So that's one way, one practice that you would recommend. What other practices?
That karma yoga, Hanuman uses karma yoga. What's in your plate? What you see? You don't look for things to do,
Right.
but you see
See where you are.
because you are in the group or whatever it is, and but Hanuman had his yoga. He was attached to Ram, which was God at that time, and he was saying to Ram, I'll do it with love and service for you. For you. And there was a moment where Ram was saying, "Monkey, what are you?" And Hanuman said, when I don't know who I am, I serve you.
Mm.
And when I do know who I am, I am you. I am.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Will you say that again? Because I just think that's essence.
Hanuman says, in response to Ram's question, who are you? And Hanuman says, when I don't know who I am, I serve you. And what I don't know, and when I know who I am you.
Mm.
I am you.
Mm.
And And he does action for Ram. And he, if you like say, for the one consciousness that sees what a mess we are in, with inequities like just people starving and children feeling insecure. Things like that. And gays and women and there's lots of issues. There's lots of issues. And Hanuman sees that he sees that he is working for Ram. And what you say is what God wants, what the whole consciousness wants. And that's the way to spiritual practice. You can get into God's perspective.
Mm. And the question again comes back to, aside from karma yoga, what practices do you feel really bring you into that state of heart and mind?
Well, I think the from the ego to the soul, and you get I am loving awareness. 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 And loving awareness is the doorway at the heart level to the soul. And the soul is, it's another plane of consciousness. You break through in that, and that plane is love and you can see that the universe is love. And when you can act with that, act on social injustice with that in mind, see the whole picture. Whole picture. Well, what do you do?
What I do? Well, you know, in this tradition that I practice in, there's a wonderful expression, mu jodon no taigen, and it means actualizing the way in your everyday life. So I think that there's so many points of contact between how you see these questions, because there are many questions that are braided together, and how I see the questions. I mean, one of them has to do with how do we actualize the way in our everyday life? How do we infuse our life with the kind of confidence that allows us to not be separate from all beings? So, you know, I often cite my experience of working in the prison system. You know, it was 6 years of my life where I was a volunteer inside, working on death row and in maximum security with men who had all killed one or more people. And I went inside with the usual biases, but very shortly it was this practice, not self-consciously, but it really became about loving awareness. It was about treating each person I encountered in that system, whether a correctional officer or a guest of the system.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. You know, exercising universal respect. And not, you know, but not with a program. It was more of a sort of, it was kind of naturally arising. And I think it arose, again, not because I was trying to be a good person, but just from so many years of practice, that there was really no other thing to do but that. Disrespect would have actually, you know, it's more a sort of knowing in the back of the brain. If I had treated people with disrespect, I wouldn't have been let back in. If I had treated people with disrespect, I would have been killed when I was inside. But you know, it's the back of the brain that's doing the work. It's not like, oh, I figured it out. You know, and being a self-consciously good person has never impressed me. I'm sorry to say. But anyway, so, but it's more about holding things with a lot of lightness and humor. And I really feel that the greatest benefit, really the two greatest benefits, not just one, is what drove me into practice was suffering. What kept me in practice was not just my suffering, but the suffering of others. And so suffering became actually a medium of redemption. Medium of redemption.
Redemption.
Yeah. You know, like Bob Marley sings about.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, so much for me has to do with also having a sense of humor. Don't you think?
Yes.
And that gets back to having cultivated a view which is more panoramic, vaster, and not wedded to being a, quotes, good or spiritual person.
That's either one.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad of me to say because I'm in the company of a good and spiritual person. But
I don't see them around.
yeah, well, good. I'm glad I qualify as neither good nor spiritual, but nonetheless. So training the mind or heart is for me really important because our tendency in our world is to flourish around judgments, around us and them, around dividing ourselves, separating ourselves from reality through too much conceptuality. And you know, I think one of the things I've always loved about you is, well, one of them is that you have a really good sense of humor. Thank you so much. You know, the 40-some odd years of our relationship has given us, you know, permission to be more normal, with each other anyway. That also your humor is combined with, you're really a smart guy about most things. So we had a discussion at breakfast the other morning where we fell into high contention.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an incredible disagreement, and for once I won. But we won't review that at this time. Okay? So practice. You know, whether you're practicing kirtan, singing to Ram, or you're attending to the breath, or you're cultivating loving kindness, or you're exchanging self with other, or you're washing the dishes, or whether you're cleaning the papaya seed off the kitchen floor, or whatever, walking down a muddy road to watch these magicians of the waves. Yeah. Or yesterday, I mean, I had a wonderful day. You were at the doctor, you know, getting your
Nose fixed.
nose fixed.
This is, by the way, in case anybody would, this is a bandage. And underneath there's a nose.
Not much of one.
And there is a big hole that they extricated them, cancerous cells that they pulled out, that they now covered it out. So we covered it so you won't freak.
Well, also, he came home with a dressing on, which was so unattractive. I could barely
Big.
look at him, you know. He sort of approached where I was working in the late afternoon. I actually jumped. And it was pretty intense. But anyway, you're looking good today.
Yeah,
This is an improved.
yeah.
So, RD, I love the image of you and Allen Ginsberg meditating on the railroad tracks as nuclear devices are passing through your field. Yeah. That's just
They weren't passing because we were
on the tracks.
on the tracks. We wouldn't let them pass.
Well, there you are. So
We were doing social
action.
action.
So Thich Nhat Hanh talks about in his 14 or 16, however many they are, mindfulness trainings, that it's important to take a stand against injustice, even if it means sacrificing your own life. What do you think of that?
That would be fine.
Good.
Sacrificing the incarnation.
Okay.
What? So what?
Well, I was just asking. So I'm curious, because we don't have much time, RD. I'm wondering if there are any questions from the people who are listening. You know, I see one question coming in, and it has to do with something the Buddha said about abiding ardently. But what do you think that means?
Abiding.
Abiding ardently.
Abiding.
Ardently.
You mean do your sadhana with
Wholeheartedness.
Juice.
Yeah, juice. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Now the question is where that juice comes from. I mean, is that a motivational system that you say, I want to be with God, I want to be enlightened, what do these call things like that?
Well, you could also say, as the Bodhisattva says, I vow to attain enlightenment in order to save all beings from suffering.
Yes.
So that really produces unselfishness within us, or selflessness.
Selflessness.
I like what Norman Fisher says about enlightenment. He said, enlightenment is basically being unselfish. It's nice, huh?
I don't think it covers everything.
But tell us, what doesn't it cover? What doesn't it cover?
Oh.
Is basically being unselfish.
Be unselfish. Unselfish. Well. I mean, it involves compassion.
Mm-hmm.
That's not being selfish.
Right.
It's called compassion. Love,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
peace,
Mm-hmm.
joy.
Mm. Yeah.
That's everybody's got enlightened with all those inside them.
Yeah.
inside it. Inside.
So Norman then has a point.
What is your Norman's point?
Norman's point is enlightenment is basically being unselfish.
If you lived in the one,
Mm-hmm.
lived in the one, that would be enlightenment. Well, selfish as a separatist thing.
Well, I think it's a Zen way of saying things, a Western Zen way of saying things. It kind of catches you. No?
See, then if you're living in the one,
Mm-hmm.
everything has been selfish.
Well, that's a good way of putting it. Then it's the big S, not the little s.
That's right.
Selfish. Good. Wonderful. So let's see if there's another question from our wonderful listeners. Here. Oh, okay. Well, actually, I was just reminded that we need time for meditation, RD. So you're going to lead us in a meditation, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that should probably happen now.
Sit or lie down so that your back is straight. Attend to your breath. Breath going in, breath going out. Now tack on love to the breath. Loving everything outside, and everything outside will love to you. Function from your heart. When you breathe out, you radiate love. For all the universe. And breathe in. Unconditional love. Coming to you. Unconditional love coming to you. And your heart expands with this unconditional love. I am loved. I am loved. I am loved right now. Right now. With all my stuff. I'm loved. I'm loved. I see we're not. I'm loved. Unconditionally love the universe. here I am in the sea of love, the ocean of love. I am a wave in the ocean of love. I am a wave in the ocean of love. There are no us and them in the ocean of love. And when you identify with that ocean of love, your words become loving, your actions become loving, and your actions with actions with anger. There is love in that. Love in that. And I love each of you, whether I've met or not met. I love each of you even in the day-to-day relationships. Love and truth. Consciousness.